Yo, my people. Today I'm here to share with you how I make my Roblox thumbnails. Keep in mind that I'm going to try to make this like the most complicated that it gets so that you get everything in there. But sometimes thumbnails don't have to be super complicated. Sometimes you want something really simple. So if you want me to do another tutorial on like a very simple thumbnail, let me know and I will. First things first, when you make thumbnails, you're going to need some programs or apps to make them. So for me, everything I use is free. I'm going to list them right now and you'll see as we go through how I use each of them. So one of these is Adobe Photoshop Express, which I just found on my computer one day. So you might already have that and you don't know, but that's free. Then there's Krita, which is a free download onto your computer. And then there's Canva, that's an online program that's free, but there's also a paid option. And then we also need Roblox Studio and Blender to make what I think is a GFX. I don't really know exactly what the definition of a GFX is, so I don't want to say for sure it's a GFX, but you know what I mean. Once you have all those programs or similar programs that can do the same things, then you can get on to the actual making of your thumbnail, which the first step I do is to take my background picture. Usually my videos are build videos, so I'm gonna just take a picture of this house, which I already have one because, you know, this house I made in a video, but we'll just take a new one. So now I've taken my screenshot. I don't need to be in Roblox anymore, so we're gonna get out of here. After taking the picture for my background, I'm gonna open up Photoshop Express, which is right here, Adobe Photoshop Express, and then I'm gonna go into my pictures library. And for me, I have my like Roblox pictures folder. So I'm just gonna go all the way down to where my picture is and I will take this one right here. And then that brings up my picture into the app. So for me, all I do in here is I will just add a filter on it. So my main one is in basic and then it's down here, it's dream. And I know that one looks really good on this one because the first time I used this filter was for a picture of this house. So look how dreamy that is. But for you, you just wanna play around and see like what filter you like, and different pictures will do better or worse with specific filters because this does not always work for every picture. And you can also adjust here like the intensity. So there it's not as intense, but I kind of really like it for this one at 100, which is like the default, but you can also go up to like 200, I think, which is pretty intense. Actually, I kind of like that. I might go all the way to 200. We're totally doing that. And then you go up here and you hit save/share. And then I just go to save. The default is it'll just add like underscore edited, I think, at the end of the title. So I usually just keep it like that and I save it. And then we are done with Photoshop Express. It's truly Express, at least the way that I use it. Next up, I'm going to open up Krita. Krita is kind of like the full-on Photoshop, but a free version. I've never used Photoshop, so like I don't fully know everything that Photoshop can do. Once you're in Krita, you're going to hit new file over here. And then it brings up this box, which allows you to like choose your image size and everything. So I only ever touch like this area really. And for a YouTube thumbnail, you're gonna want it to be 1920 by 1080. So that's what I normally do on here. So it's already in there like that. And then you just hit create and then it gives you this blank canvas. And now what I normally do is I just open up the folder on my computer where the background picture is. So I'm gonna go here and I have it in a Roblox. So we're gonna go down and then we see the one that was edited right here. It says edited right there. So I'm gonna just drag that in over the canvas and insert as new layer. And then you can see that layer over here. It's highlighted right now. But now I'm gonna leave this alone. We might come back and like adjust it a little bit later. But next up, I'm gonna add a picture of me in there. So if you want like an image of yourself in your thumbnail, make sure to stick around for this part, especially for thumbnails where you like have like an outline around yourself. This is really key and important. So I have my folder here that I've taken lots of pictures of me for thumbnails and whatnot. You can also take a fresh picture and do this, of course, because these were once fresh pictures. I was either thinking of doing this one with the peace sign or like this one where I'm just like smiling. I think I'm gonna try the peace sign because that one might be a little bit more complicated and help you kind of see what I need to do. I inserted that as a new layer just as I did with the background picture. And you can see that it went above the background picture right there. So next up, I'm gonna use a tool in Krita. We're gonna go over here to all of these selection tools and we're gonna pick the one with the dropper. With that one, you can like pick a background color and it'll like select everything that's like that or similar. So I'm gonna go for this white since that's the most like predominant color behind me. I'm gonna leave that there because if you can see, it kind of like made an outline around my hair, which for me specifically, it's very important that my hair gets really well like cut out. And if you like have a background with a lot of different colors, you can also shift click and then that adds more, but that gets a little bit complicated sometimes. It's easier if you have one major color behind you and then you can just tweak it more after that. Now that I have that clicked, I'm going to go down here to this little drop down arrow next to this plus in the box, and I'm gonna hit transparency mask. So that took everything besides what I selected out, but I want the opposite. So I'm gonna go to filter and then adjust and then invert. And then I'm also gonna hide this background by just clicking this little eye image right here. So then I can see better what I'm working with just for this layer. And then for this next part, you're gonna wanna make sure that this transparency mask layer is highlighted. By default, it usually is, but just in case you click out of it or anything, you wanna make sure you're there. So then we're gonna go to the brush tool up here, click on that, and then we are going to make sure that this color in this top square up here is black. You wanna make sure it's purely black, which the color name for that is just 6 zeros in a row, which you see right here. Because if it's gray, then it doesn't do it cleanly at all. So that's perfectly fine. And I'm gonna adjust my brush size so it's a little bit bigger. With that, I can literally just erase everything else that I don't want. That helps me take out the things in the background that are very far away from me. But when we get closer, we're gonna want it to be a little bit neater and cleaner. Okay, that's pretty good. And I'm also gonna save Control S because I don't wanna lose my progress yet, especially at this part. When it comes to my hair, I am gonna just use this tool because the next tool I'm gonna use is a little bit harder to use for my hair specifically. I'm gonna also make my brush a little bit smaller for this as well. And don't worry, because it doesn't have to be like absolutely perfect, but you want it to be pretty close. And then if you ever like make a mistake, you can always hit Control Z on your keyboard and that'll undo what you last did. And if you undo but want to redo the undo, you just hit Control Shift Z. For this next part, we're gonna want to clean up the rest of the exterior stuff that's not me that I want to get out of the picture. We are gonna go to the selection tools again, and we're gonna click on this one, which is, I think it's called the Bezier Curve Selection Tool. So we're gonna click that, and then I'm gonna start over here at my arm down here. And with this one, I just click where I want to start, which you can start off of the page. And I'm just gonna click up here to this next spot and just outline myself essentially. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but the more you play with it, the more you'll like realize like how close you really need to get. I'm just clicking, making straight lines. You can do curves with this one, but that kind of makes it a little bit more complicated sometimes. This part's a little hard because I can't fully see where my hand is because it did cut out some of my fingers. Sometimes if there's a curve, you want to just do like closer together clicks, and that makes it look more curved. Okay, and see here, I went too far because I accidentally went like into where my hair is. If you want to undo the last like place you clicked onto, you can just right click on your mouse. So right click, and then that takes that one away. And I'm just gonna fix that and just stop here and try to go along my hair a little bit right here. So for this section, that's pretty good. I can just go like this and close that out. And then here it has selected all the things on this side of me that are not me. Next up, we're gonna do the same thing we did to remove like all the other stuff back here. And we are going to go to our brush tool, and it's on black already. And I want this bigger brush. And since this is selected like this, I don't have to worry that I'm gonna go out of bounds. So I can literally just go like this and it takes it all out without taking out anything outside of that selection. So far it's looking good. Now to get rid of this little selection line, I'm gonna click this square selection option, and then I'm gonna click outside of that, and then that just kind of takes it away. And then I'm gonna do the same thing I just did to everywhere else on my picture. Back here that is behind me and between me, I'm gonna go back to the brush and just make it really small and just work really hard to clean that up. All of your pictures won't be this complicated to work with. Like I said, I was trying to go as complicated as I can so you see what the whole process can look like potentially. Okay, next up, we wanna fill in everything that is supposed to be there that was taken out. So instead of black, we want white on the brush. So we're gonna go here, and the code for white is just 6 Fs. And now I'm gonna make my brush bigger, and then we're just gonna fill this all in, and it brings all that back. And don't forget to save while you do this as well. Oh man, okay, that's one problem you don't want to run into. I just did a whole chunk without like letting go of the brush. And so when I made a mistake and I hit Control Z, it undid so much. You want to like actually release pretty frequently. That way when I do this now, it just takes away that little bit, not everything I just did. So here I'm not fully sure like where my hand or finger is, so I'm just gonna kind of go wide with this, and then I will fix the mistake after. See, there's so much I would have missed. Whoops. Okay, I think that's good. This part is very tedious if you haven't noticed. This is like the most tedious, annoying part of all of this, I believe. And then you also just want to make sure you go over like everywhere or where there's like other white spots, because white was the color that I essentially took out. So sometimes it'll take out some white on you that you don't notice is there. So I think I'm all filled in pretty well. Next step is to just get rid of that part that I added back in that I don't need. Me outlined. Look at that. Now I'm gonna bring back that background, and then I just clicked onto the main layer of this layer that is me. To move me around, I am just going to click onto this little button right here, and then you see how it like takes that whole layer and I can move me around. Woo-woo. And then to make me bigger, I'm gonna hit shift and then click here on the corner and drag, because if you don't hit shift, this is what happens. It kind of does it disproportionately. I'm gonna undo that and hit shift and click. And I've learned that it's better to have a little bit of my hair cut off, because you kind of want your eyes to be like above the halfway point. It also just depends on the composition of your whole thumbnail. I might want to have me a little bit rotated too. So that's a good start. See, that's pretty good. It might move me over because I am going to want some words in the middle. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to save so I don't lose any of that. And then when it comes to making that outline, you right click on the main layer of that, and then you hit layer style. And then you're gonna select this stroke button down here, and you wanna click on there so you can customize it. So right now it has a black, only mostly opaque line around me. So let me show you what that looks like. What I always do is I always go full opacity. Usually you use a white line around you, so I'm gonna go there. But what you see is it took the line away. And that's because right here, blend mode is multiply, which don't ask me what that necessarily means. Like I think I get it, but I can't explain it. But you wanna select here, and instead of multiply, go to normal, and then that gives us the white line. And this is a good thing that this popped up. Clearly I didn't get rid of something because we have this white dot right here. So I'm just gonna get out of this and hit OK, and then we're gonna go back to the transparency mask and get our black brush again and just go over that. If you want to like adjust that outline, you can just go back to stroke down here in the layer styles. For the size, I might want this like smaller, so I would just like drag that down to wherever it looks good. So this is 12 pixels, it's thinner. I'm just showing you how to do that. I'm not gonna put a stroke on it. I'm not really the full focus of the picture. Usually it is the build. So what I would do is I would use a drop shadow. So I'm gonna select that and go there. And you can't really see the difference there, but I think it's because the angle is a little bit weird. I would usually keep most of the settings the same, because usually you want a black drop shadow, but you can always change the color here if you want to as well. But to change the angle of the drop shadow, I'm going to move that over kind of exactly diagonal from where it was. So now you can see this outline right here. But actually I want this drop shadow to go down a little bit. Usually it looks better if it's facing downwards. Now you can see that it's like down and to the left. You can just play around with that angle, and now it kind of just looks like I'm popping out of the picture more, gives it some depth. I'm gonna go ahead and adjust this background a little bit. So I clicked on the layer that was the background. I'm gonna go back here and just resize it just like I did the picture of me, especially because I want this Roblox symbol out of the picture, you know? I kind of want the house centered, although it really doesn't matter for this picture. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that so far. I'm gonna show you a few more things, which I'm not sure I'm gonna use for this thumbnail, but I just want you to know. If you want to do text in Krita, you can. You want to hit this T button right here, and then I just drag over the picture pretty much anywhere, and then that brings up this. And you can see it says placeholder text like it does over here. So we're just gonna erase that, and I'm just gonna write Roblox, just something, just to show you. And then I normally use wedges as my font, and then I make it white over here, and then I usually just make it 36, but I probably will adjust it outside of this, so don't like get too attached to that. You can also make it bold with this font. I think it's better not to. And then I'm just gonna save, and that actually changes it out here. So you can see that there. And then we're gonna move this around. I can make it bigger just like I did with my picture and the background picture as well. This is where I would use a stroke more often for text. So I'm gonna go to stroke, full opacity, normal instead of multiply. And then I'm gonna change the color to a cute pink because that's my favorite. And there you go. So that's how you would do text. And you can also, in Krita, you can do multiple things. So I can have both a stroke and a drop shadow at the same time. I think the stroke is a little bit too thick. I'm gonna put the drop shadow on, and then I'm going to make the distance right here further. There you go. See, that kind of popped out a bit. And now it looks like the text is more like boom, popping out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and shift delete that layer. That gets it completely out of what you're working on. I'm not sure whether I want to bring this into Canva or whether I want to bring them in as separate layers. I'm probably gonna do separate layers. So let me show you how I do that. So I'm gonna just copy the layer of me, and I'm gonna open up a new Krita file. So new, and it has the right dimensions, 1920 by 1080, create. And then I'm gonna go into here where the layers are and right click and hit paste layer, and that brings me there. Perfect. And then I'm going to go to my background layer right here and make the opacity on this bar all the way to 0. Perfect. And then we are going to save that. So file, save as, find the folder where you want that. For me, it's my media for editing and thumbnails. And I'm just going to say me with peace sign. That's what I'll name it. And then you want to make sure it is a PNG file because that's what allows that transparent background to be there. I'm going to save that. Okay. And then I'm just going to go back to our original file, and I'm going to hide me, and then I will save this. So Control-Shift-S or just file and then save as like we did before. And I'm going to put that in the same folder I just put the last one. And I would also just make this a PNG because PNGs are better quality than like JPEGs, for instance. That is it for Krita. Really, all of that will just help you. If you keep playing with all those things, you can do a lot of different things just knowing everything I've showed you today. And then I'm going to open up Canva, which I have it here, and I'm already signed in. So I'm going to hit create a design. I'm going to make a custom size, which it's going to be the same as we had it in Krita, which was 1920 by 1080. You see here that I already have that as I used it recently, but you can also type in what you want. So if you wanted it in 1920 by 1080, it would be 1920 in the first box and then 1080 in the second. I'm just going to click here though, and then that brings us to an empty canvas. And then I'm going to drag in both of the files that I just saved. Okay, so here's my background picture. I'm going to drag it in. There it is. And then I'm going to drag in me next. Here it is. Perfect. And then for the background, I'm just going to make it literally the size of the whole thing. And the thing with Canva is if you make a layer as big as or bigger than the like canvas size, it makes that the background and it gets rid of whatever was already the background. So since this layer of me is the same size as the background, once I make it bigger, I'm just going to make this side smaller. And then we're just going to make sure that these corners match up over here. And there we have it. So that's perfect. I'm gonna leave that there for now. Next up, we need my Roblox avatar. So we're gonna go into Roblox Studio. So now that we are in Roblox Studio, I'm gonna click onto the classic base plate. This one, I think you could probably use the base plate too. Now we're here at the classic base plate. You're gonna need a plugin called Load Character. If you don't already have that, then you're just gonna go down here and make sure this is selected to plugins and then search for Load Character, preferably the light one because that's the free one. So you can see it has a check mark because I already have it, but you would just click it and probably hit install right there. Once you have that installed, you're gonna click on it on this tab up here that says plugins, and it says Load Character right there. And then you just type in the username of whoever you are trying to get their avatar, whether it's yourself or somebody else. So for me, I'm just gonna use mine. So naoetry. If you don't need to pose it, then feel free to use R6. But for me, if I'm gonna pose it, I use R15. So I'm gonna click on spawn R15, and there she is. There she be, my beautiful avatar. You can see it says naoetry right here, so that everything under this arrow is my avatar or what's on my avatar. So I'm gonna get rid of my ukulele. I'm just gonna click on the cottagecore ukulele and hit backspace. And then I think I may also get rid of my glasses. Backspace, because I want to add a different face on here because I just want to show you what that looks like. So to change the face, you're gonna wanna go back over to this section, and instead of plugins, you want it to be on models. And then if you have a specific face that you know from Roblox, you can type that in. Otherwise, you can just type in faces and you'll see a lot of them, and sometimes they come in packs, but I'm just gonna find one that I wanna use. This is a very popular face, so I'm gonna click that one. And then for this, I just hit okay, that's fine. And then what you're gonna wanna do is you see the super happy face right here. You're gonna go down and it says decal, and you wanna right click that and cut. And then on your avatar, you want to go to where it says head and hit the down arrow on that. And then where it has face, you just wanna click on it and then hit backspace. And then you're gonna go up to where it says head again, and you're gonna right click and click paste into, and that puts the new face there just like that. Also, something I forgot to mention is if you want to move around in Roblox Studio, you would hit WASD pretty much just like you do in any Roblox game. But if it's too fast, you can hit shift and then the key, either WAS or D, and then that slows it down. Now that my avatar has everything I want on it, the face, you know, I took away the accessories I didn't want, I am now going to pose her. In order to do this, I'm going to want to go up to the model tab up here at the top, and then you see these buttons over here, move, scale, rotate, and transform. I usually only use move and rotate because scaling just makes everything out of proportion. You don't need it. It's already in proportion, so it doesn't need to be scaled differently. Before we pose, I just realized I still have this back here. Just so it's not a distraction, I'm just going to get rid of it and hit backspace after clicking on it. And I'm going to do a simple pose where her left arm is just kind of up like this. Under naoetry down here, we're going to click onto left hand, and then I'm going to shift and click left lower arm, and then I'm going to hit control to click left upper arm as well, because I'm going to need to rotate her whole arm, because when you make that motion, your upper arm is like a little bit rotated this way. So all three of those are selected, and I'm going to click on rotate, and I'm going to rotate it just in the way I told you. We're going to rotate like this a little bit, and then you see how it kind of brought everything not where it is, like her arm is not connected to her body. So we're going to click on move, and I'm just going to move that back a little bit, and that looks pretty good to me for now. I'm going to rotate it back like this because we need a little bit of an angle, and essentially you just kind of move between move and rotate until you get it right. So this part can be very tedious as well when it comes to like making your thumbnails, but the more practice you do, the easier it gets. Like the first few of these that I did, it took me forever. So my advice is to, even if you don't need to, is just practice doing this over and over again until you get more comfortable with it, so that when you do need to do it, it's a lot easier. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with this. So now we need to get her into Blender. And I don't think I mentioned this before, but you want Blender 2.79, and I will have linked down below all the links to that. You just have to find the one that's right for like whatever system you are on. So I'm gonna click on naoetry up here, and then I'm gonna shift click and hit the very last item that's in here, which usually is the humanoid root part. And then I'm gonna right click and click on export selection, and then you just save that wherever you want to, and that's gonna save as an OBJ. So we're gonna hit save, and then I'm just gonna leave out of here and open up Blender. Now that we have Blender up here, I'm just gonna like click out so that this goes away, and then I'm gonna hit delete to get rid of that square cube. And then you want to go up here and hit cycles render, and then down here to this little circle thingy with the arrows next to it, and then you want to hit texture. And you want to do that because when you bring in what we just exported from Roblox Studio, that will just put the textures on them already. So then we're gonna hit file, and we are going to import, and like I said, it's an OBJ, so it's going to say wavefront and then .obj in parentheses. So you want to click on that one and then just find the file. I didn't quite show you, but you just double click the file when you get there. So to move around in Blender, you want to hit Shift F, and then from there it is very similar to moving around in Roblox Studio. You just hit WASD, and this time it's very slow. So if you want to speed it up, then you hit shift and then it goes faster. And then when you are where you want to be, you want to left click, because if you right click, it takes you back to where you were before. So we left clicked, and now we are looking at my avatar with a super happy face. And then to get an image out of Blender of my avatar, just like I had an image of me with the transparent background, we are going to go over here to this little sidebar, and you just want to change change the resolution. Usually if it's a character like this standing up, then I switch it and I make it 1080 by 1920. That's the opposite of what like the thumbnail size normally is. So you can do whatever you want. And then we're going to drag where it says 50%, we're going to drag that to 100%. And then that's all for that section. We're going to go down, and you want to make sure that this right here says PNG. There was one time where it somehow selected something else on its own, and I was having the hardest time until I realized that's all I needed to change. So make sure that's on PNG, and then you want to go down here to where it says film and click on transparent. Make sure that is checked. That gives you the transparent background. And then we're gonna go over to this world tab, and we're just gonna select ambient inclusion right here. That's all for that section. So then you want to go over here to view, and then you click on camera. This is the resolution I chose. This is 1080 by 1920. So again, to move in the camera, you hit Shift F and you move in the same exact way as before. And then you just want to position the camera so that you can see whatever you want to see of your avatar, whether you want the whole thing, which I normally save the whole thing. That way I can choose whether I want to be closer or farther away from the avatar. Especially if you want to maybe use the same picture again, it's better to just take the whole thing, in my opinion. That way you can always reuse it in different ways. I'm pretty happy with this right here. So I'm going to left click, and then we're going to go up here to where it says render and click on that and render image. So right now it's rendering. You can see this render bar loading. Look at my beautiful avatar. And so this is essentially the image that you're going to have of your avatar. To save that image, you want to go down here to where it says image and then save as image. And then here you just give it a title, and then you can choose where you want that to go. So I'm going to put it in my media for editing and thumbnails folder, and then you save as image. And then that should be good. So we're all done here. And now we're back to Canva with our thumbnail. I'm going to drag in the file that we just made in Blender, and there she is. And I'm going to just move her around. You can literally just like click on it and move it around and then make it bigger. Here in Canva, you don't have to worry about like hitting shift. It keeps it proportional without that. I'm just going to make her bigger, and I am going to have her from the waist up probably, or hips up. And I'm going to rotate her a little bit. It always looks a little bit better when you rotate just slightly. So I'm going to have her similar size to me, but not completely. And then in Canva, I can also select my character and then edit image, and that will allow me to put a drop shadow on her too. The only problem with Canva is that you can only have one thing at a time. So I can't have like drop and glow as far as I know. If someone knows different, let me know, because I would love to know. I'm gonna put a drop shadow though. And then for me, I always adjust it a little bit. So I'm gonna click on this again. You can see it's gonna allow me to adjust it. So I usually do like blur of 7 and then 70% transparency and then offset of 1. You saw all that happen, and you see how it's making her pop a little bit more off the page. Looking good. Okay, next up is where I just add in text and fun things. So for the text, I'm gonna write how I make my thumbnails. So we're gonna go over here to where it says text, and I just click on add a heading because that just pops that in there. You can always adjust it however you want after that. And I'm going to type in and I think I'll leave that one there as is. So I'm just going to move this up a little bit. And then my font, like I just told you a little bit ago, is Wedges. I found this from here. So you can find a lot of fonts from Canva and then download them onto your computer. That's how I find a lot of my fonts lately. And then I'm just going to change the color over here, make it white, and make it bigger too, because that's definitely not big enough. But we can also always adjust this later. And I'm going to do another text one, do the same thing and just write make my, and then to make that go into one line, I'm just going to drag it from the side over here. Also, I kind of want this centered. So I'm going to click on this first one where I said and then hit position and then put it in the center. And then I'm going to put one more and write in thumbnails. And I'm just going to make that like my sweet apricot font. And then to add some more pizzazz to these words, I'm just going to click on one of them, and then we're going to hit effects, and then it gives you these options here. The main one I use is splice, and that kind of gives you the same thing as the stroke in Krita. If you want it to actually look exactly like that, then you would just adjust it here and make it thicker, like probably all the way thick, and then the offset would be 0 because then that puts it right on the word. And then I want the filled in part to be white, so I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna actually change the color of the actual text to something else because that is the outline color, if that makes sense. And for this thumbnails part, because of the font, the stroke or the splice effect, it doesn't look as good. It makes it a little bit harder to read because it's such thin letters. So what I normally do for something like that is I'll go with echo, and then I just make the color of the echo black, and that makes it pop more. So you can either leave it like that, but for me, I would want it to stand out even more. So I'm gonna go to elements, and I'm gonna find something I can use like as a background for that. I typed in background into the search bar, and then it gave me a lot of these things. You might have something specific that you're looking for, and you can always type that in. But for me, this one right here, which is one of the first ones, actually looks really good. I just clicked on that, and that brought it in here, and I'm gonna put that right over here. The only problem with this one though is that I can't widen it without it also getting too high, so I'm not gonna use that one. This one right here also looks cute, and this one would be much more customizable. See, yeah, I can make that smaller there and make it fit just around my thumbnails word. And then you see how like it kind of blends in. I'm gonna go ahead and change the color. Kind of feeling this purple, but now that echo effect is looking not so great. Yeah, okay, this pink actually looks better there, but rule of thumb, black usually is the best option there. I don't like everything to be so like perfectly straight, so I'm probably gonna like give some rotation to the word thumbnails here. Something I realized is I didn't show you how to color correct in Krita, but if you want to color correct in Canva or just like put a filter on, I'm gonna click on the picture of me, then I'm gonna go to edit image again, and you can kind of do this actually on your own and change the brightness, make it brighter, and the contrast just brings out like the light and dark more to make more contrast. And then you can also change the saturation to be like more colorful. So yeah, that already looks much better to me. So there we have that. Honestly, this elements tab is like just chef's kiss when it comes to Canva. It's probably the main thing I use it for. I can just add in different things. So I'm gonna hit out of this search, and I'll show you what I recently have used and things that I use all the time. Like I always use these like dots. You probably see them in my thumbnails all the time. So I'm just gonna go here. You can probably find that by like searching up dots literally, and literally that's already perfect. But if I wanted this to be longer, what I would do is I would pull that over here and then copy and paste. And I'm just like right clicking to get to those options. And then I just drag that to where it looks like it's just continuing on naturally. And right now I'm clicked on this one, and then I can shift and click this one and then hit group up here. That way it's all like one thing now. And then I can also copy it as a whole and paste and then drag that down to the bottom. How awesome that is. And honestly, that's kind of really cute, like it is. And then you can always just change the color by clicking on this box here. I'm gonna make that white. Same for all of them, honestly. And of course, there's other cute things like these sparkles and whatnot, which I also use pretty frequently. I could put that around like thumbnails, make it like a cute color, but I don't think we need that. Like I am pretty happy with this. Let me know, is this the final product that you see on this video? And there are just so many more things you can do. Like I could blur that background. That can be done in Canva or Krita. You can play around with it, have fun, get to know all of the products better with time. But that is how I made this thumbnail. Now to save this, I'm gonna hit share up here and then download. And then for YouTube, you don't want it to be a PNG because PNGs are very big files. You want it to be a JPEG because there's a limit on the file size for your thumbnails on YouTube. So I changed that to JPG, and then I'm gonna hit download. And that just downloads that straight to your download folder. And you can always move that around to wherever you want on your computer. Here's the final product of our Roblox thumbnail. I hope you found this helpful. And like I said, if you want me to do like how to make a simpler thumbnail, then I totally can as well. And if this did help you, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'd love to have you here in the Nao tribe. I will see you next time. Bye!